At Relentless Digital, we believe in breaking barriers and driving innovation. That's why we are extremely proud to sponsor the Power Women of the Trades podcast, supporting the voices and success of women in the home service industry. Together, we're creating a future where talent shines, regardless of gender, and diversity thrives. Join our journey at relentless-digital.com and always be relentless in your pursuit of excellence.
This episode of Power Women of the Trades is also brought to you by Forrest Perry of Forrest Perry Digital Marketing. Want to generate more leads for your service business? Trust his team to deliver quality new customer leads and protect your brand online. Check out perrymarketing.com today.
Hello everyone. We want to give a quick shout out to our amazing partner, Rilla, the game changer in the home service industry. Rilla's virtual ride-along software means no more physical ride-alongs. With Rilla, you can coach your team virtually 100 times faster and boost your close sale rates like never before. Don't miss out. Join the movement today and watch your sales soar. Visit rilla.com/PWT to learn more.
Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Power Women of the Trades podcast with Cassie and Heather. Today, we have Sarah Ghirardo with all kinds of titles and accolades. So we're going to just jump into it. Sarah, I know Sarah from ServiceTitan. I think most do. Sarah, you got all kinds of irons in the fire. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Cool.
Been wanting to be on the show for a while.
Yeah. So what are you doing these days?
Oh my gosh, what am I not doing? I think that's the question. So I work for ServiceTitan. That's my full-time job. And I run a podcast. That's my second weekend job. And yeah, I speak at industry events. That's my third job on top of that. So yeah, I just, I do a lot of different stuff. And at ServiceTitan, I run a team that makes content. And then we work to teach the trades marketing as much as we can and help out and give back. And yeah, that's really what I do.
So kind of like going back to your story, you've been in the trades for quite a while before ServiceTitan, right?
Yep. I was a director of marketing for an HVAC company in Northern California.
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for about 4.5 years. So, and I started at the bottom. I was a marketing coordinator.
Oh, wow. So you've been with ServiceTitan, I feel, as long as I've known you. So
yeah, so I've been with ServiceTitan for almost 5 years, 5 years in July. Yeah. So I've worked in the trades for a while now. And before that, I was a call center, pretty much director for 177 alcohol retail stores.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
What caused you to make the switch into the trades? Or was it just the marketing got you into that?
So I graduated with a marketing degree and the economy tanked. And so I did random jobs. And the alcohol retail thing, there was this VP of marketing I didn't even work with. And he went to work for the HVAC company. And he was like, well, I know that, you could help run the call center. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to run the call center. I'd like to get back into marketing. And so he gave me a chance and I promised that I would do everything that I could to help and to grow the business. And so that's what I did. Yeah.
That's cool. That's good stuff. So one thing I think that's interesting about you is that, what am I trying to say? You work from wherever. You're a constant traveler, right? And so that's a good thing about a remote position, I guess, right?
It's so good being remote. It does have it has its benefits. And yeah, I can work from wherever I am. And I do, like, my podcasts are from every different state that I can join if I am out in the road. But I also, there's good and there's, kind of opportunity. I don't see a lot of people all the time when I'm at home.
Yeah.
Like, literally, this is me and my dog, right? And my kids are at school and I have to balance the mom life and then travel and balance the mom life. And yeah, it's rewarding, but there's opportunities for me every single day to figure things out.
Yeah, for sure. I know, like just my travel schedule with purpose, but there for a little bit, right? You would be like 30 days in a different area, right? Just for like.
Yeah, I was in Orlando for 30 days and it was for different speaking events and, just different events. And what I'm there for is to meet the people in the trades, help them with ServiceTitan as much as I can, but also bring them out to speak. So I am kind of like scouting when I'm out there as like who can help and who can be, who needs to be on the stage, right? So yeah, that's what I do. And that's hard being a single mom. You're like, oh, I'm going to be gone for 30 days.
Yeah.
It's like,
How do you do it?
You know what? There is no magic behind it. I have really great parents and they help me with my kids and my time. They have a really great dad. So we're all just in it together and, and it's not perfect. Trust me.
Yeah. Well,
no, it's got to be hard to be gone for 30 days. I know I would miss my kids a ton.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The mom shame and the guilt, like it'll hit every so often. But, as the kids get older, we have to really look inside ourselves as women and say, what's next for us? And, why not now? Because I'm only getting older. It's not like I'm getting younger. So I really got to, be able to take the chance on myself. And so that's what I did.
And your kids are teenagers and they're seeing their mom following her dreams and doing things that she loves, which is probably an inspiration to your kids too.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I hope so.
Yeah. That's everything with kids, right? You're like, I hope that's what's happening. My kids, every time something happens, I'm just like, we were talking about that before we went live. Like there's just so many different spaces and there's just a lot of different ways to be a mom too. I think we've got to remind ourselves that and then especially with your kids older, like, shoot, they're probably like, throw me on a flight, mom, and let's go,
Yeah. They went with me to a conference in December and I was like, okay, well, I have to teach you how to travel. I have to teach you how to travel alone. I have to teach you about money. There's all these lessons and I need to teach you about the trades, although that they have been living in the trades for the majority of their life.
Right.
It's like, how do I incorporate them more? How do I show the next generation that you don't have to go to college? Like you can have a really great career right out of high school and starting with my own kids. So that's what
that's awesome that you're kind of immersing them in it and giving them that opportunity to travel with you so they can see, what you're doing and that how big the industry really is and the friends and the networking that you can do. And I know Stephanie Allen travels with her kids and her family quite a bit. And I love that because it's amazing to see like strong women in our industry who are, making an impact, but also you see that family side of it too, where you're including your family in these driven careers that we lead.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and there is no balance. Everyone wants to be like, hey, there's a work-life balance. There is none, it's your life. It's what you create and it's your calendar to manage is what I say.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. So talking just on some like marketing things, I always think you have an interesting perspective on things because you see a lot. And everyone's always, the first question always is, what is trending? So I want to let's think about that in a minute. But what do you think the biggest problem with most companies in marketing, like most trades company, what do you think their biggest problem is?
Oh, I think their biggest opportunity is basically just understanding what they're wanting to do and being able to articulate that because you don't know what you don't know. But then when you do know, you have to take significant action. And so there's that in between of, can I ask questions? And what questions should I even be asking? And, that's where the contractor, that fear sits in and it sits in our gut, right? And we're just like, how do I get past this? You just need to surround yourself and then finding the right vendors. I think those are the biggest opportunities.
Opportunities is a better word than problem. I think I really just go to problem. But yeah, I agree. I see all the time on these social media groups and it makes me crazy. And I get real opinionated and passionate because I feel like I need to protect these smaller contractors from the vultures that are in these groups sometimes. But it's these people like that. I saw this post one time that he was just like, I'm canceling all radio because I've been spending $1,500 a month on radio and I've done nothing. I'm like, well, first of all, who the heck ever let you spend $1,500 a month on radio? You have to be in the lot of digits on that, okay? Or you're wasting your money.
Yeah.
Or, someone that's like, I've put this much behind on PPC. And it's the same there too. You got to bring big dollars, or sometimes it's kind of a waste because you're just getting lost. But someone posted in this group about that. And so that contractor jumped on and was just like, but now it's not working. But really, even if you spend a small budget, did you have a plan for what you were going to do operationally when the call came through?
Yeah, I can market all day long, but if I have poor operations, like it's not going to work. And so like that's on you. And
I think a lot of business owners don't realize that. They don't actually digest what they want to do with their marketing. You can drive those calls as a marketing professional, get those calls coming into the business, but if they're not handled properly, it's irrelevant. And then the business owner will often say, well, I spent all this money and it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
And their mindset is not in the right place.
It's also, so you're a small business, you started out, you're like, hey, I don't have any marketing. I have no idea what marketing is. Like, what am I doing? I have my business to run. I need to hire a vendor that I trust that will manage this for me. Well, they're not going to be able to manage what should be managed in-house, right? Which is training your CSRs, which is creating more content to help that conversion happen throughout the entire customer journey. They're not going to be able to do that. Their focus is on that one reason why you hired them. Was it SEO? Was it PPC? Was it radio? They're not going to hold your hand and be like, hey, here's a script for a CSR.
Right. So 100%. And then, or, we see those same conversations in these groups of, I think I need to hire someone else for my SEO because they're just not doing anything for me. And I'm like, okay, well, what'd you do? Like, and I say that like obnoxiously. I really mean it with love. Heather, a few weeks ago, Relentless Digital is a podcast sponsor and they were on. And I told Josh, I was like, bro, I would never want to own a marketing company. Never. Because you are the hero in the summer and you suck in the winter, and you don't, but everyone's mad at you now because this is when the shit really proves if you have operations to handle this, if you have a plan. And I think so what happens sometimes these conferences, I was just talking about this on another episode, but I love all the conferences. Okay. But we have to sit in the room and sometimes remember that the speaker might be trying to sell me something, which is fine. Okay. The speaker might be trying to sell me something and that's fine. But if you just have conference whiplash and go and implement all these things that you learned that they sold you on, which is fine, but you actually don't have a freaking plan on what to do when those things come in, you're shooting yourself in the foot and then you're just mad at the marketer and they can only do so much for you. Like we tell our team, Kaylee is our director of marketing at Quality and she manages all of our agencies that we work with. She listens to every PPC call, every LSA call, not everyone's got the grit that she does that can do that, but she's having the conversations that are important and she's fixing like, hey, this wasn't great on the phone here. This experience wasn't great. She's having those things and that takes a lot of effort, It
takes a lot of effort. And as a marketer, you have to have that connection to your call center, but you have to have the connection to your technicians, to your sales guys, to your installers. Like you have to have that connection to everybody because everybody needs scripts. Everybody needs enhancements, right? And listening to calls is great, but also having the CSRs listen to the calls and being like, hey, tell me about this. Like, I want to hear your story. I want to hear what's in your mind because everyone has different stories. And so we have to take that into consideration, especially with the KPIs that we all have.
Right.
As a marketer, I'm like, hey, I just want you to book that call. They called you. Like, that's my story. As a CSR, they're like, I just couldn't. The objections were just too hard. Yeah. And the technicians, the same thing. Like I couldn't get around the objections. Well, that's all training, Right. So it's like, we have to work together to really enhance our operations in order to just make us all successful and win.
Yeah, for sure. And like, those are the things that Kaylee in our business is paying attention to. So she can go back and say to their direct manager, like, just because Kaylee's catching that doesn't mean she can always, fix it. Right. But she's going to that manager like, hey, we got an issue here. Or this is what happened. And some of the best resources for us has been obviously ServiceTitan. This isn't a plug for ServiceTitan because Sarah's here for the record. ServiceTitan call recording. And And then, but also Rilla is being able to look at the call and what is happening in the customer's house. Like Kaylee, as the director of marketing for quality, is very intentional of making sure everything looks the same. It's not uncommon for her to be walking to the closet to get a new shirt for a technician because she's like, bro, take that off. You don't represent the brand well right now, you know?
Oh, she sure does.
Or, hey, it wasn't how this was supposed to look. The van's dirty. This is that. Like every piece of our representation
magnet needs
of the
to be
company.
on the van the correct way. Yeah. Like, I mean, like you are the brand, no matter what role that you are in. You are selling no matter what role that you are in. It is important to be consistent, and it is important that brand image is upheld. And so like, that's great 100%. Job on Kaylee.
And it's just constant. And so whenever I try to like set and put myself, and listen, it's easy for me to set on this side of the table now and say that is absolutely not how quality always was. Yeah, and there's definitely days that we all screw up and miss something, right? But I remember specifically with one company that we hired with marketing, and I probably need to snip this and record him and send it to him later, and he'll be like, oh, really? We kind of had a falling out, not necessarily a falling out, but we moved on. But some of the things back then that I was holding him accountable to wasn't fair to hold him accountable to, but I didn't know any better because I was just like listening to every other marketing pitch. And so like when I say I would never own a marketing company, I mean that. But I also think like sometimes marketing companies are each other's problem because to get their lead, they're promising something, right? And you're just like, bro, you ain't ever going to be able to do that. But let's train. What I love about Josh at Relentless is they talk about a lot of operational things. They don't just say like, okay, these are the leads or like whatever they're doing. They're reminding you of like some things that you should be doing on your side. Like someone can get you to the plate and throw the ball, but you got to swing.
Most businesses' online presence is boring. And by being boring, they're losing out on potential sales and customers. Being interesting and exciting is what draws customers in and gets them to buy from you. But it's hard to be interesting online when you're focused on running your business and taking care of your customers. It doesn't have to be this way. We have the key to unlocking the solution to your problem. Key Heart Marketing can help take your business from boring to brilliant on social media. We can vouch for them. They run our podcast socials. If you want to have a strong social media presence that allows customers to know, like, and trust you, connect with Key Heart Marketing at keyheartmarketing.com.
Yeah. And your agency, no matter what they do, they're your partner, right? And so you have to like lean in with them. You have to be like, hey, I'm having a really hard time with calls because they may have a capacity planner and like view inside of your CRM or whatever, but what if they don't? Right. And so like, they don't know. And the more information that you can share and the more relationships that you can build, that's what matters. The connection is what matters.
You should start a series on how to have a relationship with my marketing agency.
I would love to. I talk about it all the time.
Because I think that would help all of the companies that you know and you're friends with, but you don't always need to fire them, you know, right. But like, just like I'm like envisioning this whole TikTok series for you. And if you go viral, just tag me a few times.
I will. I never go viral on TikTok. You know? It's just like my close friends. Like I have too many social channels. So.
When I go viral on TikTok, it's over dumb things. I went viral for taping the fat on my legs. So if you would like to know how to do that, it's on there, pinned at the top. Anyways, but I think, you know, especially because you're in a position that you work for ServiceTitan, but you aren't directly working for these marketing companies. I know so many marketing companies in our space that are so great, but most of the time their customers don't know the questions to ask them. Like, you know, what are the top questions to ask your marketing company to know that number one, they're doing things correctly? Or what are the questions to ask them to have them help you do better as their contractor? And when we had that relationship, so over 3 years, and I can tell you, Josh got client from Quality and Cassie that had been through some stuff. So he got the better end of the deal than maybe some of my previous companies that we worked with, because by the time we got there, I had learned some things. But had I maybe learned better questions to ask like, hey, the phone's ringing, but the calls suck. Okay. I used to just say that, right? Because my corporate advisor said that. Those calls suck.
Oh yeah, I've gotten that many times. They come
And
to
then
my
I
desk
would
and
be
they're like,
like,
"This is what."
and I said it and I believed it. And now I'm like, tell me the call sucked, dude. The damn phone rang. You sucked, like they had a problem. Something was broke.
And they called you.
What sucked? You, maybe not, like not.
He couldn't get over the objections. I mean, there's always an answer.
Process, right? And maybe there wasn't a system in place. What got us here won't get us there.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so like, we don't know what we don't know, but when we do know, like we have to do something about it. And our agencies, as we grow, we will not have the same agency.
Yes.
As you get into different revenue numbers, you will not have the same agencies. And it goes for SEO, it goes for PPC, it goes for any like branding, radio. Like, I mean, I don't have the same radio person as I did with an HVAC company that I would with Coca-Cola, right? Like they're not going to be the same. And so like, you have to think about that, like strategically, okay, at this revenue point, tell me what's the next step to get to this revenue point, and then tell me like, what's the plan? And then after this revenue point, can you help me anymore?
Right. That's such an important question because, and Josh, I know he will be fine with me telling like this specifically. Like when we started with him, however many years ago, almost 4 years ago, I said, when I outgrow you, I need you to tell me and don't just try to bullshit me to keep me on as a monthly customer. And that's where I feel like I had kind of screwed up in the past was I just like stuck it out, or I would be like, hey, I want to start doing PPC. One company in particular, whenever we did that, they had never done PPC. They said, okay. And they were literally Googling and learning. Okay. That was a long time ago company that isn't even in the space anymore. But I think back and like, dude, how much money did I blow? Literally, because they had no clue. I could have done that.
Yeah.
And if they didn't know how, why was it ethical for them to do, there's just so many things, but I didn't know better. I was just like, hey, do PPC.
Yeah. Well, I think people have to get into the space, right? And agencies have to understand like, what is their offering? What is their niche? Like, what are they going after? Choose one thing, right? There's that book of one thing. And when it comes to agencies, as you get larger, you're like, cool, you manage SEO, you manage PPC, you manage radio. We're all going to talk and have a cohesive plan together to make it work, right? Yep. Like we're in this together. And so we bring everyone to the table because there are no separate tables because there's one business that we're working on. Yep. And I think like that's the other, I could talk about this stuff all day long, and you're right. I could do the TikTok series on how to bring it together, but people would still come at me and they'd be like, well, what else? And I'm like,
right. Well, you can't do it for you. I can't make it, I can't. We have some competitors that Kaylee gets so pissed. And I'm like, girl, they can literally copy and paste everything we do. And there's two right now that are just like loving to do that. Okay. Copy and paste it. They do not have Kaylee and they do not have this leadership team and they do not have the training to do it like we do. So copy.
Well, and they won't be able to execute it as well.
Right.
Because of that.
Your brand is your value and your reputation. And when companies used to do that with me, Kaylee, I would go and call them straight up and be like, hey, you don't have the budget I do. And so you're unfortunately going to lose.
Yeah. I'm going to eat your lunch. Cause that's what we do now. I'm just like, whatever, buddy. Like it's kind of a game. Now you just like set me up to play like whack-a-mole and I'm just going
And there are no new ideas, right? We're all just ripping and replacing and whatever. So, it's how it's executed. You're absolutely right, Heather. The people behind the scenes.
But I don't want that to sound discouraging. You can take some of our ideas, whether you're in our market or not, and you can try them and you can do them, but you have to make the magic.
Yeah.
And
you are the magic.
You are the magic. Like,
you are the magic.
You cannot replicate quality's magic because you aren't with this. You're not in my brain. You're not in Kaylee's brain. You're not in the processes. You're not in everything that we do. You can try, but you're not going to be able to because you've got to find what your own magic is. If you don't have any magic, just ripping off my billboard campaign or my location status, getting real personal, Kaylee. She's over there.
Kaylee's like,
she does, like, Sarah, if you haven't met Kaylee, she is a little firecracker when it comes to marketing, and she gets really fired up when she sees
look at
the competitors steal the ads.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Like her stuff that she came up with.
Yeah.
It's just like, but you know what? Rip it off, buddies. Do it. Try it. But you need to spend some time making your own magic. Okay.
You really do, because you can't execute it if you don't understand why you're doing it. If you're just copying somebody else's thing, it's not your passion project. It's not the way that that you want your brand to be seen. It's the way that you want to compete against quality because their brand is being seen.
You know, specifically 100%, Heather, because like this one local competitor is trying to rip off our billboard campaign right now, right? That's fine. How much it's done for us that they're doing that?
A lot, because it's confusing. Like you
Well,
can't.
everybody is like,
You're just creating, you're just creating like chaos and disruption, but not in a good way for another brand.
You're
And
literally
so
many people have messaged us and been like, did you see what they're doing? Like, that's y'all stuff. Did you see this? Like tagging us, commenting, sharing, but this was quality. Like you literally are marketing for us right now.
Yeah.
Thanks. You know, and that's locally. So, you know, when I talk about the other things, like I'll share anything that we have, but you've got to go back and you've got to talk. If the only time you talk about marketing is when you didn't have enough phone calls, you're not in a good spot.
I love that. Yeah. Marketing is a consistent approach and it's always talked about because you're always marketing.
Yeah. So for us, you know, we have our campaign or our stuff set up for the whole year. We have content already being made for like a couple months out, you know, so where it's stacked and ready. Of course, we'll make changes, but like anytime someone thinks like, well, and especially when I start talking about local, I'm like, as soon as you think you're copying us, we're already like moving on from that, you know, but that's how serious marketing has to be. It's a full-time job in the building. And even it really, to me, doesn't matter what revenue you're at. I can tell you when we hired Kaylee, it was Tyner, great friend, love him. Matt Tyner was like, I see the vision of what you want. And this is the person you needed in the building to help you do that. And we were at $6 million in revenue when we hired her. And everybody was like, you can't afford that. That's not, the trades doesn't have that position in the building yet. This is that and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, we need it. But I knew that I had enough to be able to train her and the knowledge of what we wanted to go with. But it takes full-time, everyday focus of marketing. And if you're just marketing, you know, or the people that say, we don't even have to market in the summer. I mean, you probably don't, but you should.
Well, your brand is always there, right? Like there's always things you're not, when you're in the summer, you're not in the summer, you're in the fall as a marketer. Like, and you're really in the winter and you're already planning for next year. Yeah. And so like our jobs are never done. And if a marketer is sitting around doing nothing, then we have a bigger issue. But way to go for taking a chance at $6 million and being like, no, we have to grow our business. We need this because a lot of owners will be like, hey, I only want revenue generating employees, and they won't consider that as a marketer. And I'm like, who's going to create that revenue for you?
So
well, it's the same with a lot of operational positions. But I think, you know, if you don't know Cassie well, I know her very well. And there's sometimes she's run ideas by me and I'm like, I don't know if that's it. You know, we want to spend the money on that. But one thing I can say about Cassie is if she knows in her gut, this is the direction she wants to go, you're not going to stop her. And so poo-poo on all the people that said, don't hire Kaylee. Kaylee has been probably the biggest assets to quality for driving Cassie's vision. And Cassie is an amazing visionary. But there's sometimes I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? And you're like, she'll just be like, girl, we're doing it and we're going to make it happen.
I'm going to need you to say, okay, because it's happening anyways. Or one thing that we do big is there's no like, okay, that was a good idea. Let's plan a meeting for next Friday and talk about it.
No,
I'm like, no, it starts today. Yep. And you have to have the balls to do that.
You have to be the freight train that people are saying in the background that it may not stop. And there's a reason why, because the billionaires, the whatever, they are the ones that have the idea and then put it together the fastest and fail forward. Because it doesn't matter if you're going to trip and fall and whatever, just get back up. Like, pivot.
I saw a TikTok on that and I wish I knew who it was, but it was like some billionaire. And they said like, what separates you from everyone or whatever. And he was like, when something's changing, it's happening now. I don't schedule stuff out. No. You know, I don't schedule a meeting to do it. I do it right now.
No, it never gets implemented half the time when you do that. I think have the vision, discuss the vision, whatever that is, and then you have to execute it immediately and have the ability to pivot quickly and look for the things that aren't going right and being able to recognize that quickly and pivot and make those changes. And then once you start doing that and you get your team on board with doing that, then you start gaining momentum and it becomes normal where, you know, the idea comes out, it gets talked about quickly. There's no meeting scheduled. We implement it. If 2, 3, 4 days, a week goes by, it's not working, then we make tiny little changes to it. And we just keep moving the pieces until they achieve the goal.
Right. And you set a go, no go date. So you're like, cool, I'm going to go for this or I'm not going going to go for this. We worked with this. Like I've had projects where I failed for a good 6 months, but I did different iterations, just like you said, Heather. Like I changed it and I was like, okay, well, this works a little bit better, but this might not work a little bit better. And then I have to really step back at, the 6-week mark and be like, what did this produce for us? What did this make sense? And, because if I'm fast to move, I've also got to be like very analytical. I also have to be like looking at retrospectives. I need to like involve the team, have discussions. How did you feel that I pushed this forward so fast? And then like, was it implemented properly? Because, yes, some ideas you can go fast with, other ideas you have pilot teams with, and, it's just a constant iteration. Your ideas are yours and you just move as fast as you can, but you're not going to be able to implement everything,
Right.
It's not possible.
Yeah, for sure. You're cracking me up about Kaylee on the other side of the screen. You said something about marketers are revenue producing. So like 45 minutes ago, her and Kelly were standing in my office and Kelly said something about the revenue producing directors. And Kaylee was like, I'm a revenue producing director. And I was like, well, okay, yes, you are because you're getting it. But when she was referring to those revenue producing directors, she was referring to the ones that get on the phone and close a job. And so yes and no, but yes. And so I'm like managing. I'm like, you're right, girl. Like you do, because she's the one, like girl knows the calls, she knows the stuff coming in and those other directors, they know if like, hey, I need more drain calls or I need this or whatever, they know that she's got it and she's going to get on the phone calls and make those changes quickly because
she's creating the avenue for revenue to happen.
For sure.
She's the roadmap to the revenue.
Ooh, I like that. The roadmap to the revenue. She is most definitely, but she is also a revenue generating producer. So I will defend you all the time because, but they say that. And I think business owners say that because they're like, who do I hire first? And I only want to hire those that support our money. And like, that's why I say marketing is a revenue generating producer because I support your money. I manage your expenses. I manage your bills. I make sure that they're paid, with our accounting team. But I also like make sure that money's coming in because if money's coming in, then it's going to come out to us. Right.
I talk a lot about, I worked at Best Buy and I was an operations manager. And then there was the product process manager, which was the inventory manager. And funny story, he's a comfort advisor for quality now. Nice. But we were like always like the most underappreciated positions in the company. And we were not the sales managers, right? But we still ran the sales floor, 4 hours a day or whatever. But because we were the operations or the product, the inventory. But if like he didn't have the inventory on the floor, we weren't selling it. And then if I didn't have the operations team to check it out, trained to sell the replacement plans and all of that stuff, it wasn't getting out the door. And so I 100% believe like there's so often that, Heather and Kaylee's in the room, you can't see her, but Heather and Kaylee both know how often we say like like even talking about CSRs, how many people hire like an $11 an hour receptionist? Like that's not your person. Like you need to have a totally different thing there. And so if that person answering the phone is not as important as a technician to you, then you shouldn't be marketing because they're not doing anything with the calls you're paying for.
Yeah.
Well, that's that first contact with your customer. That's probably one of the most critical pieces to every call that's coming in.
Your first contact is marketing.
Sarah's like, no, second. But I had actually someone call me once to mentor her. And one of the questions she said was, and I'll never forget it, how do I get my owner? She was an operations manager here, or not here, but at a trades company. She said, how do I get my owner to believe that a CSR dispatcher should make more than like $13 or $14 an hour? And I was like, well, is he marketing? And she's like, yeah. And I said, what? Like, how do I get him to believe that they should have some type of like spiff structure? I'm like, first of all, I need to talk to him. I went straight like, we got to talk because those people answering your phone are not more important. Everyone's important, but just as important as a technician that goes to the house.
Yeah. Cause they can sell stuff too,
But they just sell the damn call. They got to book it, That's
they can sell membership too. They could sell all sorts of stuff,
overcome the price objection of your service call fee.
Yeah, so much. I mean, I think everyone has a role that is important inside of your organization.
Absolutely.
And there was a quote about, they were sending someone to the moon and they interviewed a janitor and a janitor was like, they were like, well, what do you do here? How do you impact? He's like, well, I'm working on sending someone to the moon. It didn't matter what his role was. It didn't matter what his title was. otherwise, titles are meaningless. You know what I mean? Like, it's about the people. We're in a people and experience business, no matter what. Everyone has a role. Everyone has a KPI they manage to, and we have to work together.
And one break in the chain affects the entire experience.
It does.
It affects, and so that's like
100%.
we talk a lot about the life cycle of the customer. And the life cycle of the customer, marketing, call center, right? One break in it affects the entire experience, and it doesn't matter how hard someone else worked.
It doesn't.
And those processes for that life cycle have to be defined before you start holding your marketing company accountable for not being able to close their leads.
It does. Yeah. Because there's misconversions everywhere, and there's also wins everywhere. So everything needs a nurture or a rehash. You know what I mean? And so we all have a very important job to do. For sure. Well,
Sarah, it's great catching up with you. You're a great influencer in our space. I'm ready to hear you start a TikTok series with those questions to help the contractor manage the relationship with their marketing company, and to grow as an individual marketer, as an owner.
Yeah.
Marketing is your responsibility too. So anyway, it was great to see you. We hope to catch you sometime soon.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, Sarah.
Have a great one.
You too.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review in Apple, and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.